Quadratic equations end up being really important when we talk about physics. Things like rocket ships and any sort of projectile. They tend to follow a parabolic shape, which is a quadratic equation actually describes that. So pretty important, and we're going to study them a bit moving forward here. Now, let's look at one. All right, doesn't look too bad. I'm sure you've solved one before, okay? But here's the mistake most people make. They just dive in and start factoring. And we'll talk about why that doesn't make a lot of sense in a moment here, okay? But let's see what it looks like factored. Now, what they'll end up doing is breaking this up and writing out two equations. Okay, you've probably seen this before, but there's a huge problem with this, okay? What we're assuming here is that we're all good as long as x minus 4 is the same as 8, right? But it won't work, and there's a reason for that, right? If I just put in blanks here, okay, and I say blank times blank equals 8, how many different numbers can you come up with to put in spot 1 and spot 2 to make this true? I'll let you go ahead and do that for a minute, see if you can find all of them. And keep going, and going, and going. And if you haven't figured it out yet, you could do that for the rest of your life, and you would never be able to find all the combinations. There's an infinite number of combinations that do that. So there's something we need to do first. That 0 is so important. And let's look at why. I'm going to factor this again. Okay, and here's why it's so important. If we have blank times blank equals 0, there's not an infinite number of possibilities for that. Either the first blank is 0, or the second blank is 0, or they're both 0. That's really it. So that's why we can now say, hey, you know what? If x minus 5 is 0, then I don't care what x plus 4 is, because 0 times anything is 0. And if x plus 4 equals 0, then I don't care what x minus 5 is, because anything times 0 is 0. And if we can find that, then we're good to go. And now, if you take these solutions and plug them back into our equation, they're gonna work. And I'll leave that to you. You don't need my help doing that, okay? However, if you were to solve these two equations and try the same thing, it's not gonna work, okay? And that is because of that concept we just described, super important, the zero product property. And while this might have seemed a little unnecessary, the reason I brought it up is that a lot of you know that you have to set an equation equal to 0, but you never really know why. This is why. This is why it works. It's not a rule. It just makes it possible. By setting up an equation in a specific way, it allows us to be able to solve it.